all the way.
Yes, you are all the way. Mr. Bob Boxon here is fucking trigger happy. I've been sitting here for the last 15 minutes waiting for him to stop doing the show till I do the record button. Welcome back to the non-televised revolution. Oh, my dude. I love you, man.
I'm just talking here, bro. Fucking, you think you're annoyed? You should hear my lady. Oh my god! I don't give a fuck about Biden. Like, I don't give a fuck about Biden either. I think he's kind of funny to make fun of. He's kind of a joke. Look at the guy. Look at him. It's just, sorry.
No, it's funny. I mean, it's like doing a talk show is your dream, but you just kind of, I don't know, needed the team for the dream.
Yeah, something like that. The dreams for the team.
All right, let's try to get back on track. Continue read those jokes that I sent to you, please.
This is less news than my neighbor installing a bird feeder. This is less surprising than a few random happy birthday wishes on Facebook. I like that one. This is less information than a bus schedule by far.
I've been practicing. What news am I talking about?
I think you're talking about Mueller, but it could be the show. I mean,
Oh man, that was the funniest intro ever.
Who the hell knows, man?
Ooh, setting records here.
Are we?
Wow.
We're setting records here?
Yeah, Laugh-O-Meter records.
Okay, the Laugh-O-Meter is on. So wwhere do you want to freaking start? Do you want to start with the Mueller joke, or do you?
No. I mean, we kind of actually fully covered it. Just kidding, but like, we need to explain why.
I couldn't watch the whole thing. I wanted to. I tried. I was totally freaking planning to do it, and so on and so forth. I was gonna just go on with my day and have that shit running around. I couldn't even. Like, he didn't even know his own stuff. He was he didn't even know his own report. He was stumbling over everything, and he had to go like back over. And I admit, last time I wrote 500 pages, I didn't have it all memorized, but I could get to the fucking gist at least.
Right. There was that, and he refused questions really often.
Oh yeah, he did.
During the part I caught,
that's not mine.
Kind of early on.
That's not my purview. What the fuck? You're the head of the fucking investigation. What is not your purview?
And then
you gotta be kidding me. Oh, that's not your job. You're leading it. That's your fucking job, man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to.
No.
The guy just annoyed me a lot. I'm not trying to demonetize myself or anything like that. I'm just, the dude annoyed them. He annoyed me a lot.
Don't worry, I'm gonna get on the editing thing.
Okay. Like, just say something, anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know.
11 straight hours of nothing.
All right, and then the other important thing to know is that the Republicans and Democrats were asking way different questions, and they each had their set of questions.
Yeah, and that was
question.
kind of it. It was sort of the same vein of the question, the same deal, and the same direction. And
it was a joke.
It was. It was like, oh well, blah 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 blah, and it really did. It seemed like the whole bread and circuses hold the bread.
That's right.
I stand by that statement, man. It's
you
just
are correct, sir.
Bread and circuses.
Speaking, that's a really good segue. It's time for your segment.
Actually, I have a segment that I just thought of while we were sitting here, and it kind of relates to the Mueller thing. Because Mueller didn't say a word about Assange at all. But there is kind of a little thing that I think should be pointed out. The Justice Department today just said that they were going to start executing people again, federally. They were going to do the death penalty. Attorney General Barr just said that was going to be something that they were going to do. Now, the reason why I brought up Assange is because they didn't. You see, these two things aren't related or anything like that. Of course, Assange isn't actually going to be in our custody for a few months, but the fact that you turn up the heat a little bit at a time, people tend not to notice. I'm just saying, I can't connect the dots, but there they are. Assange is coming, and we just happen to start thinking, oh, we might want to kill people for the federal government. I can bring up a citation for that if you'd like. I'm sorry to drop that on you. I just thought of it. I was like, oh yeah, I wanted to talk about this. Sorry to drop that on you. That was kind of a heavy brick. Apologies.
Awesome. We do the show and then we do the preparation.
Yeah, sometimes. Well, sometimes we're preparing. I'm preparing now. But yeah, there you go. Little piece of news for you, Dale. Little piece of news for all three of you that are listening.
Wow.
So yeah, and that's just a little piece. I just wanted to bring those two issues up in the same place, in the same space, because it just needed to be said. Anyway,
that's kind of heavy. Yeah, well, that's a good segue. We gotta be. We're trying to help you be as woke and crazy as we are. We can open your mind, but we can't sew it back together. So you already know it's a wild ride. We tickle you with our fun personalities, and then we nearly murder you with the news. Americans might finally have a good reason to lose sleep.
Yeah, that was the next thing. Now, it's an MSNBC article, but that actually says a lot, because it's it's kind of being listened to. The thing that I wanted, we could read it, but I don't really want to. It's sort of cutesy and like blah 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 blah.
There's some clappy writing in there too. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, how they write it is not. I don't like it, but they do put some pretty beefy numbers in here. Like just under the first little advertisement here, some Americans are already feeling uneasy.
Yep,
Consumer confidence fell by a 2-year low in June. Confidence Board announced last week it fell to 121.5 this month from a 131.3 in May. That's the lowest since September in 2017. Now, consumer confidence is not always an indicator. Like sometimes it freaking drops, and it just because of certain world events that are going on. Like I can't remember what was going on in September of 2017, but it was post-Trump era. So I'm going to say that it had something to do with Chinese trade, which is making the market volatile. Probably. That would just be a guess. Chinese tariffs and so on and so forth. creating the consumer index going low. But those are now baked into the market. We aren't feeling uneasy about that any longer. It's just something that's there. And it is something that could resolve itself any day. So a lot of people can make a lot of money off that if that were to be what happens. However, we're losing confidence in what's in the actual numbers behind our economy. And like overall, like that's the common consumer. That's you, me, that's Joe Blow down the street, anybody who's going to maybe put a little bit of money into the stock market for their retirement. Well, a lot of those people aren't going to do that now because consumer confidence is kind of low. And it's sort of like a Ponzi scheme. As long as people continue to put money into stocks, money comes out of stocks. But when people stop putting money into stocks, money stops coming out of them. So therefore, when consumer confidence is low, it's a pretty okay indicator. And if you have a lot of other numbers backing it up, you might be looking at a downturn.
Oh, okay. Actually, now I kind of get it why stock markets are sort of an indicator of something. It's not an indicator that we're doing, but it's an indicator that capitalism hasn't broken yet.
Kind of. Actually, it's a pretty good indicator that it is. But, you know, the better it's doing, the frickin' more that's being extracted to people who don't produce anything.
That's right. And so the point to me is that you can actually literally blame it all on the rich people. Let's talk about why that is. And get real mad about it.
There's like real fucking talk, man. How it went down, in my opinion, is student debt. Our generation was saddled with student debt, so therefore large quantities of the people that would normally be buying stock at my age aren't. Therefore, larger percentages of the stock are in the hands of the people who already have money. So they didn't, at that point, all of that wealth then trickles upward. And then they do really crazy tricks like they do really crazy tricks like cut taxes because they get their buddy in office, which is every time. I mean, which was the last president that actually raised taxes? Reagan didn't do it. Clinton didn't do it. Bush didn't do it. He cut taxes. Obama made them permanent. Trump cut them again. It's just something that happens. So every time they cut taxes, which, you know, it's good, maybe bad, who knows? Who knows what's good or bad in this particular context? Sometimes it is what's necessary. Sometimes I think that you should raise taxes at times that they're doing good so that you can get some of that surplus back into the state coffers, but that's just, you know, an opinion thing.
Oh man, I think it should be against the law to be have more than $1 billion. Billion sounds good enough.
I don't.
At that point, you're like your own government.
If the economy was working in a way that actually served everyone, I'm not sure that such a preponderance of power would actually develop in the hands of such a few people.
Fuck the billionaires.
I'm not saying that it's necessarily their fault, because I'm not. It really isn't. It is to an extent because they're greedy assholes. Of course they're greedy assholes, but that's who gets rich. My brother-in-law, he's a millionaire. He's a greedy asshole. That's okay. It's okay for him to be a greedy asshole. He does things and he has a different thing and everything like that. It's when greedy assholes pay off other greedy assholes. It's when we vote in corrupt assholes that get paid off by the greedy assholes. That then government and business aren't in contention any longer. If they're not in contention, there's no balance, man. That's, in my opinion, how this system, it's the only way it can work. I'm not a big proponent of capitalism, any form, but if it's gonna work,
when was America great? When we were taxing the rich. And when did we stop taxing the rich?
1976 or so. Well, it really got on with Reagan in 1980. I'm guessing 1982.
I'm trying to think when they started think tanks, because it started sooner than that. Like there was a guy that owned a beer company. I don't want to misspeak on which one it is.
Like organizations and different like dummy corporations that are in essence just money pits that you put money into so that they can kind of buy political influence. That's been around since the Gilded Age, man. Yeah. That is not new at all. That's been around since the railroad guys. It's been around since the steel barons and the frickin' that's been around since all that time ago.
It's important to remember that if you're involved in the fight, you're not the first one. It's been going on forever.
Literally, I can talk about the history of it going back as far as 3,500 years. However, in the United States, if we're really talking about the history of like labor relations in the U.S., the last time that we were in the like in 1919, 1920. And in those areas, labor relations were really, really, really contentious, bloody even. The Gilded Age in the 1920s, the Roaring 20s. Well, that was on the back of the freaking people who were starving to death because they owed their soul to the company store. It's the same it's the same era that song came from. As the Roaring 20s. So the two things are not unrelated. And then the Great Depression and so on and so forth.
The fight for unions, the fight for the right for women to vote, the fight for the right to...
It's all been interrelated in
civil rights
from the very beginning.
They all had to fight. And now we have to do the same thing to our economy. We need economic motherfucking... The thing that we
always forget is that the civil rights movement was a labor movement.
Yes.
We say that freaking one of the things that Martin Luther King was most freaking disappointed about was the response of white moderates. Like he thought that he could get white blue collar people on his side, and he did by and large a lot of them, but he didn't get to the mass of them, and he couldn't for no matter what he did for his entire life, and died for the idea that you, the white freaking blue collar worker, are just about are a hair's breadth, a few seconds from getting exploited just as much as we are. It's not you're not in a different class than we are. Right. You just think you are.
Wow.
and he couldn't freaking and he couldn't express this idea and it's everybody. It's everybody freaking sometimes forgets that it's. I mean, like, here's a really crazy little thing. In the 1920s, it became really convenient for white business owners to point to the difference between black labor and white labor. So they pointed to the difference between black labor and white labor, and freaking they said, "Oh yeah, you guys are freaking you guys are different, okay?" And how they did it at that time was they said, "You have more in common with your to the white laborers. You have more in common with your white freaking business owners than you do your black neighbor." And somehow this worked. I'm not sure how this worked, but it did. And you know, the South had its own problems with racial disparity, and frickin' Detroit's always had kind of a weird history as far as that's concerned, but it's still,
man, I was trying to wrap up the show, my dude.
Already? My bad. Anyway, I'm just saying, it's happening again. Here in the 2019, the powers that be have deemed it convenient to point out that we're different again.
Yeah.
And we're fucking buying it. Hook, line, and sinker. Just like that. They're doing it in a different way, in a different direction, but man, all we're talking about is how we're different.
Well, yeah, but this time I think it's a class war. Like,
yeah, it's always been a class war, man. It's always been a class war. That was just one move.
Yeah.
That's why I've been saying we got to take back the language of class solidarity as opposed to freaking letting them freaking talk about racial solidarity and blah 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 solidarity and blah 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 solidarity, because that game, we know how that fucking works. We know how that runs. We know what happens. We've read this book. We've read this fucking book. If you haven't read this book, please read a book. It's everywhere. We've read this book. Come on, guys. We know this fucking story. Like,
us. And then, over again. It's us. And then,
I mean, there are problems. There are problems. We're being oppressed in slightly different ways. I get that. I understand that. We are. I admit that. It's totally true.
Thanks for listening.
Slightly different ways. So we get to argue about our individual oppression because we can't see from inside our own bubble that the other person is just as harmed.
Yep.
Anyway, my bad. Soapbox mode. Soapbox mode deactivate.
This has been the best episode ever, Mr. Bob Dobson. It wouldn't work if you were unable to quit talking, so don't be sorry for that.
I don't know. Yeah, that fucking whole Mueller thing just really pissed me off, man. And I was just it really did. It just, god damn it, man.
I thought we were talking about it. Anyways,
everybody's talking about it.